The Soul of Money by Lynne Twist. Picture this. You've lived your entire life in a village nestled deep in the Amazon rainforest. A place so remote, it takes 10 days of hiking just to reach what the outside world calls civilization. In your village, money simply doesn't exist. Not a single coin, not one crumpled bill. For thousands of years, your people, the Achuar, have thrived without it. You've built homes, raised families, and celebrated life using a different kind of currency altogether. Reciprocity. You share what you have. You care for each other. The forest provides everything you need. Your true wealth lives in your relationships, your bond with nature, your connection to the spirits around you. Then everything changes. You're chosen. At 26 years old, a young warrior named Chumpy, your elders select you for an extraordinary mission. Travel to America, learn English, become a bridge between your world and theirs. But you quickly realize there's another language you need to master. One that echoes through every transaction, every conversation, every dream in this strange new land. The language of money. Suddenly you find yourself immersed in a world where this bizarre concept permeates everything. It stares at you from billboards, calls to you from commercials, sits printed on price tags at the bakery. Your new friends measure their futures in dollars they haven't earned yet. You begin to understand that here, nearly every decision, what you eat, where you live, who you love, what you dare to dream, gets filtered through this thing you never knew existed. The truth hits hard. For your people to survive, to shield the rainforest from oil companies threatening your home, you can't simply ignore money. You must learn to wield it. But the real challenge, using it without letting it corrode your soul, without severing the ancient bonds that have kept your people truly prosperous for millennia. This essential question, how do we use money without letting it use us, sits at the beating heart of one of the most transformative books ever written on the subject. Today we're exploring Lynne Twist's masterpiece, The Soul of Money. This isn't some dry manual about budgeting or picking the right stocks. It's something far more powerful. It's a complete reimagining of your relationship with money, a path to transform it from a source of constant stress and anxiety into a wellspring of freedom, joy, and genuine purpose. Lynne Twist isn't your typical financial guru. She's not sitting in a bank office or crunching economic data. Her real education about money came from nearly 4 decades on the front lines of global transformation, where she raised over $150 million for causes like ending world hunger and protecting the rainforests. She sat in gleaming boardrooms with some of the wealthiest people on the planet, then just days later, found herself on the dirt floors of huts with some of the poorest. And in both worlds, in those extremes, she discovered something remarkable and surprising. Our relationship with money has almost nothing to do with how much we actually have. It has everything to do with a powerful invisible belief that quietly holds most of us captive. By the time we finish this journey together, you'll understand this hidden belief. You'll learn about the 3 toxic myths of money that keep us trapped in a cycle of fear and constant dissatisfaction. More importantly, you'll discover the 3 surprising truths that can set you free, truths that allow money to become what it was always meant to be, a tool for expressing your deepest values and making your most meaningful contribution to the world. So let's begin this journey and uncover the true soul of money. For most of us, whether we're willing to admit it or not, money is like an iron ring we've somehow put through our own nose. It leads us around wherever it wants to go, and we've completely forgotten that we're the ones who created it in the first place. This isn't really our fault. We're born into a culture absolutely saturated with money, a world that teaches us, from our earliest moments, a powerful and pervasive lie. It's a lie so deeply woven into our society that we don't even recognize it anymore. We simply accept it as reality. Lynne Twist calls this the myth of scarcity. It's a mindset, an unexamined assumption that whispers constantly, there isn't enough to go around. This simple, toxic idea fuels so much of our anxiety, our jealousy, our greed, and our constant struggle with life itself. It's the default setting for how we think. We wake up in the morning and our very first thought is often, I didn't get enough sleep. Then immediately, I don't have enough time. Before our feet even touch the floor, we're already behind, already lacking something essential. This feeling of not enough shadows us throughout the entire day. Not enough money, not enough success, not smart enough, not attractive enough, not fit enough. We exist in a constant, low-grade state of fear that we, or the people we love, will be the ones left out when the music stops. This belief in scarcity rests on 3 toxic myths that quietly govern how we live. The first toxic myth is devastatingly simple: there's not enough. This is the idea that the world operates like a cruel game of musical chairs. There's always one chair fewer than the number of people playing, so you'd better scramble and fight to make sure you secure a seat. In this view, life becomes a zero-sum game. For me to win, you have to lose. This myth gives us permission to take care of our own at the expense of others. It's what allows us, as a global community, to live with the fact that we produce more than enough food to feed every single person on the planet, yet millions still go hungry every day. The myth tells us it's unfortunate, tragic even, but ultimately unavoidable. In this game, somebody has to lose. The second toxic myth follows naturally from the first: more is better. If you truly believe there isn't enough, then your only logical response is to accumulate as much as possible. More becomes your shield against scarcity, your protection against the void. But this myth puts us on an endless hamster wheel, a race with no finish line in sight. The chase for more transforms into an addiction. As Lynne puts it perfectly, in the mindset of scarcity, even too much is not enough. You might be a successful executive who earned $7 million last year, but if your golfing buddy just pulled in $10 million, suddenly you feel like you're losing. This relentless pursuit of more completely distracts us from appreciating what we already have. We're so focused on the next car, the next phone, the next vacation, that we barely experience the genuine gifts of the present moment. Our obsession with increasing our net worth comes at the direct expense of our self-worth. The third, and perhaps most insidious toxic myth is, that's just the way it is. This is the myth of resignation, the belief that the world is inherently unfair, the game is rigged from the start, and there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. It's a feeling of utter helplessness that keeps us locked in place. This myth becomes our justification for inaction. It's why we might stay trapped in a job that drains our soul, because we think, that's just the way it is, you have to make a living somehow. It's the myth that has protected systems of injustice for centuries, from slavery to discrimination, because people resign themselves to the idea that the world simply cannot be changed. This resignation becomes the ultimate prison of scarcity, because once you believe you're truly helpless, you will be. These 3 myths, there's not enough, more is better, and that's just the way it is, weave together to create a powerful, self-fulfilling prophecy of lack and constant dissatisfaction. They're the invisible software running in the background of our entire money culture, quietly shaping every interaction we have with money, transforming it into an expression of pure fear. But what if this entire operating system is built on a fundamental lie? Lynne Twist's profound revelation, her greatest gift to all of us, is the discovery of a completely different way of being. She calls it sufficiency. Sufficiency isn't a quantity or an amount. It's not a step up from poverty or a step below abundance. It's not about having a certain number in your bank account. Sufficiency is an experience, a way of seeing, a declaration that there is enough, and that we are enough. It's a profound shift from constantly looking outside ourselves for more, to looking within and around us at the resources we already possess right now. Lynne first encountered this principle in its purest form, not among the wealthy, but among people who had almost nothing by conventional standards. She tells this breathtaking story of visiting a remote village in Senegal, deep in the Sahel Desert. The landscape stretched out bleak and barren, covered in fine orange sand. The temperature soared over 95 degrees, and it seemed almost impossible that anyone could survive there. She and her group had traveled there to help the villagers find a new source of water, since their shallow wells were running dry. They fully expected to find people who were hopeless, sick, and utterly defeated by their circumstances. Instead, as their vehicles approached the village, they were greeted by the joyful sound of drums and dozens of laughing, cheering children running toward them with open arms. The entire village had gathered, dancing and singing, dressed in beautiful, vibrant, colorful clothing. The energy radiating from these people wasn't one of desperation at all. It was vibrant, alive, joyful celebration. These people were not poor in spirit. They were incredibly rich in resilience, dignity, and an unshakable belief in possibility. During their meeting, the women of the village, gathering in a separate circle, shared an extraordinary vision. They knew, they could feel it in their bones, that there was a vast underground lake lying beneath their feet. They had seen it in their dreams. The men were deeply skeptical, and ancient tradition forbade women from digging a well. But the women's conviction was absolutely unshakable. All they needed was permission, a true partnership that would honor their vision. With the support of Lynne's group, the men finally agreed. Over the next year, the women dug. They sang and drummed as they worked, never doubting for a moment what they would eventually find. And they were right. They hit the underground lake of their visions. Today, that well provides life-giving water for 17 different villages. The entire region has been completely transformed, now flourishing with irrigation, farming, and literacy classes. The people there didn't sit around waiting for someone to rescue them. They turned their full attention to the resources they already had, their inner wisdom, their collective strength, their connection to the land, and in the light of that attention they created their own prosperity. They embodied sufficiency in its truest form. This is the surprising truth that changes everything. Sufficiency is not something you acquire from outside yourself. It's a context you generate from within. It's the recognition that if you look honestly within yourself and around your community, you will find what you truly need. When we live from this place, we engage with life from a sense of our own wholeness, not from a desperate need to be made complete by something external. This fundamental shift from the lie of scarcity to the truth of sufficiency unlocks three powerful principles for completely transforming our relationship with money. Lynne calls them the three truths of sufficiency. The first truth is this: money is like water. This is perhaps the most beautiful and liberating metaphor in the entire book. Lynne learned it from a woman named Gertrude in a humble church basement in Harlem. It was early in Lynne's career, and she had just flown in from a meeting in a gleaming Chicago skyscraper with the wealthy executive of a major food company. The company was trying to clean up its tarnished public image and handed her a check for $50,000. The transaction felt cold, empty, purely transactional. Lynne felt like she had somehow taken on the company's guilt, along with its money. That very same evening, she found herself in Harlem, in a leaky, cramped basement, asking a community of people with very little money to contribute to the hunger project. After she made her request, an elderly woman named Gertrude stood up. She was tall, proud, radiating dignity. "Girl," she said, "I like what you've said tonight. Now, I don't have a checkbook, and I don't have any credit cards. To me, money is a lot like water. For some folks, it rushes through their life like a raging river. Money comes through my life like a little trickle. But I want to pass it on in a way that does the most good for the most folks. I have $50 in my purse that I earned from doing a white woman's wash, and I want to give it to you." Gertrude walked up with quiet grace and handed Lynne her $50. In that profound moment, Lynne realized that Gertrude's $50, which flowed directly from her soul and her deep commitment, had more genuine power and value than the $50,000 check sitting in her briefcase. Money is a current, a flow. It's a carrier of intention and meaning. When it flows freely, it can nourish, cleanse, and create abundant growth. But when we hoard it, when we dam it up out of fear and anxiety, it becomes stagnant and toxic. In the scarcity mindset, we see money as a thing to pile up and protect. In the sufficiency mindset, we see ourselves as temporary stewards of a flow. Our job isn't to accumulate endlessly, but to allocate wisely and generously. Our true wealth isn't measured by what we cling to, but by what we consciously direct toward the people, projects, and purposes we genuinely care about. The second truth of sufficiency is, what you appreciate, appreciates. This is a profound principle about the transformative power of where we place our attention. Whatever we focus our energy on naturally grows and expands. If our attention constantly dwells on what's lacking, on our problems, on our deepest fears, then that becomes the world we actually inhabit. We literally expand the presence of scarcity in our daily lives. But if we consciously turn our attention to the assets we already possess, our unique talents, our hard-earned skills, our meaningful relationships, our creativity, our inner strength, those assets will grow and flourish in the warm light of our appreciation. Lynne witnessed this truth in action in Bangladesh, a country that had been tragically labeled one of the poorest in the world, dismissed as a, quote, giant begging bowl. After years of relying solely on foreign aid, the people had gradually come to see themselves as fundamentally helpless. Then something remarkable happened. A grassroots movement began. In simple workshops held in village parks, people were asked to close their eyes and genuinely envision a self-reliant, prosperous Bangladesh. At first, there was only silence. Then, tears began streaming down their faces. For many gathered there, it was the very first time they had ever allowed themselves to imagine such a future for their country. From that powerful vision came a new commitment to action. In one particular village, 7 friends, who became known as the Magnificent Seven, decided to act on this new vision with everything they had. They looked at their existing resources through completely new eyes. They noticed a large patch of government land that had always been considered utterly worthless, overgrown with thorny, poisonous brush that nobody wanted. For countless generations, everyone had seen it only as a problem, an eyesore. But with their new mindset of sufficiency, they suddenly saw it as a shining opportunity. They obtained permission to clear the land. The entire community pooled their meager savings, roughly the equivalent of about $750, and hundreds of people came out to work side by side. They trained young people who had turned to crime and begging, giving them new skills to become farmers. While clearing the land, they uncovered something miraculous, a hidden lake, absolutely teeming with fish. Within just months, an area that had been riddled with poverty and despair was becoming genuinely self-sufficient. The crime rate dropped by a staggering 70%. They had everything they needed all along. They just couldn't see it until they fundamentally shifted their attention from what they lacked to what they already had. They appreciated their own capacity, and it appreciated in return. This truth works for all of us. When we feel overwhelmed and stuck, the most powerful thing we can possibly do is stop obsessing over what we don't have and make a conscious, grateful inventory of our true assets, our non-financial wealth. Our friends, our family, our character, our experiences, our resilience. These are resources that money simply cannot buy, and they form the true foundation of our prosperity. The third truth of sufficiency is, collaboration creates prosperity. The scarcity myth constantly tells us that life is fundamentally a competition, a battle. It's a you or me world, where someone has to lose for someone else to win. The truth of sufficiency reveals something radically different. Our greatest power actually lies in genuine connection. It's a you and me world. When we bring our diverse, complementary resources together, we create a kind of alchemy that generates a prosperity no one could possibly achieve alone. Lynne shares this wonderful, simple story that perfectly illustrates this. One Friday evening, her car brakes completely failed near the Golden Gate Bridge. She managed to limp to a repair garage, but discovered it was closed for a private party. Feeling desperate, she peeked inside through the window and saw the mechanic celebrating around a grand piano. The owner noticed her and joked, "Our piano player is a no-show tonight. If you can play the piano, we'll fix your car." As it happens, Lynne does play the piano. She played cheerfully for their party for an hour, while a mechanic happily fixed her brakes. She showed up with exactly what they needed, and they had exactly what she needed. It was a perfect, spontaneous collaboration. This principle of collaboration is actually the true law of the jungle, despite what we've been taught. While older science obsessively focused on competition and survival of the fittest, modern biologists now recognize that cooperation, symbiosis, and genuine mutuality are the real keys to a thriving ecosystem. Nature operates as a community, not as a constant war. This understanding completely transforms the very idea of giving. In the scarcity mindset, we have charity, where the haves condescend to give to the have-nots. This creates an uncomfortable dynamic of power and dependence that can actually be demeaning to everyone involved. It quietly perpetuates the myth that some people are capable and others are inherently helpless. In sufficiency, we practice solidarity instead. We create genuine partnership. There are no haves and have-nots in this view. We are all haves. Our assets are simply different from one another. Some of us may have financial resources at this moment. Others may have invaluable on-the-ground wisdom, deep community connections, burning passion, or committed sweat equity. When we come together as truly equal partners in service of a shared vision, everyone involved becomes empowered. That's when real, lasting change finally happens. This idea is beautifully captured in an ancient indigenous prophecy, the prophecy of the eagle and the condor. The prophecy teaches that long ago, humanity split into two distinct paths. The people of the eagle, representing the mind, science, technology, the material world, flew high and saw the world from a great distance. The people of the condor, representing the heart, intuition, spirit, and deep connection to nature, flew close to the earth, feeling everything. The prophecy foretold that after a long period of painful separation, at this exact time in history, the eagle and the condor would need to fly together again, wing to wing, sharing the same sky. The people of the mind, for all their impressive technological prowess and accumulated material wealth, would find themselves spiritually impoverished to the point of self-destruction. The people of the heart, for all their profound wisdom and ancient knowledge, would be materially impoverished and at genuine risk of being wiped out entirely. Neither could survive without the other. Only by truly collaborating, by generously sharing their complementary gifts, could they bring the world back into balance. This is the ultimate expression of collaboration. It's the deep recognition that our liberation, our genuine prosperity, and our very survival as a species are completely bound up with one another. So how do we actually begin to live this way? How do we make this fundamental shift from scarcity to sufficiency in our own daily lives? It begins with a single, powerful act, taking a stand. Taking a stand means consciously aligning your life and your money with your deepest values. It's about deciding clearly what you are for, what kind of future you want to help create, and letting that heartfelt commitment organize your choices. This isn't about being against things or fighting enemies. It's about being a stand for something positive. A stand for a just world. A stand for a healthy, thriving planet. A stand for compassionate communities where everyone belongs. When you take a stand, your money naturally becomes a practical tool to make that stand real in the world. Every single financial choice you make becomes a statement of who you truly are and what you genuinely care about. Where you shop, what companies you choose to support, where you donate your precious time and money, it all becomes an authentic expression of your soul's deepest commitment. This brings your life a profound sense of integrity and genuine power. Lynne shares a harrowing but ultimately hopeful story from a village in India where, Due to crushing poverty and a brutal dowry system, the tragic practice of female infanticide was heartbreakingly common. A group of 16 women, each of whom had participated in this horrific tradition, gathered together and, for the very first time, broke their silence. They grieved together, holding nothing back, and then they took a stand. They committed to end the practice forever, to stand courageously for the value of their daughters and for themselves. It was an act of incredible, breathtaking courage. That single stand created powerful ripples. It inspired movie stars and popular singers throughout India to create moving public service announcements and songs celebrating daughters. It ignited a national conversation that is now actively dismantling the ancient dowry system. Their stand somehow generated the very resources it needed to fulfill itself. The power to take a stand lives within all of us, right now. And the most powerful way to start is by consciously changing the conversation. We don't actually live in our circumstances, we live in our conversation about our circumstances. On Black Monday in 1987, when the stock market crashed spectacularly, the public conversation became one of fear, panic, and devastating loss. Lynne and her husband made a conscious choice to have a completely different conversation. They turned off the television and started talking openly about all the genuine wealth they still had, their love for each other, their healthy children, their strong bodies. They deliberately shifted their conversation from scarcity to sufficiency, and in that pivotal moment, the crisis lost its power over them. We can all do the same thing. We can become truly conscious of the words we habitually use. Do our conversations endlessly circle around lack, complaint, and comparison? Or do they naturally center on gratitude, possibility, and collaboration? By consciously choosing a conversation for sufficiency, we literally create the world we inhabit. Ultimately, living the soul of money is about creating a meaningful legacy. Not a legacy measured by what we leave behind after we're gone, but a legacy in how we choose to live right now, today. My favorite story in the entire book is the one Lynne tells about her own mother's final months. Diagnosed with terminal cancer, her mother decided to consciously complete her life with intention. One day she sat down and began making phone calls. She called her dry cleaner, her trusted car mechanic, her favorite waitress. To each one she said something like, "This is Mrs. Tenney. I'm dying, and I wanted to tell you how much I've appreciated you all these years. You've genuinely made my life better." She was acknowledging the real wealth she had in these everyday relationships that filled her life with meaning. Then she took what little money she had left and wrote personal checks to her 11 grandchildren. She didn't want to just leave it to them in some impersonal will. She wanted to give it to them while she was still alive, fully present, so she could share directly in the joy of how they would use it. By the time she peacefully passed away, she was, as George Bernard Shaw famously said, thoroughly used up. She had spent her life force and her material wealth completely in service of expressing her love. That is a legacy of enough. Lynne Twist ends with a beautiful, hopeful metaphor from nature. The caterpillar, at one stage of its life, becomes a voracious, consuming machine, eating hundreds of times its own weight. Our modern consumer society can feel exactly like that sometimes. But at the same time, inside that bloated caterpillar, something absolutely magical is happening. Tiny things called imaginal cells begin to mysteriously appear. At first, the caterpillar's immune system attacks them aggressively as foreign invaders. But they persist, find each other somehow, and begin to connect. When enough of them have clustered together, they become the genetic directors for the entire future. They begin to create the butterfly, using the soupy mess of the dissolved caterpillar as the raw material for their beautiful creation. This, Lynne says, is a perfect metaphor for our time. The old, unsustainable systems based on scarcity may be in their gluttonous, chaotic final phase. But all around the world, in every community, there are imaginal cells emerging, people like us, who are waking up to a new dream. A dream of genuine sufficiency, of true collaboration, of a world that actually works for everyone. We are finding each other. We are connecting. And together, we are creating the butterfly. Our relationship with money can become our daily practice. It can be the way we connect with our own imaginal selves, the way we consciously align our resources with the birth of that new world. We can imbue our money with our soul and let it be an authentic expression of our love, our heart, and our full humanity. As we come to the end of our journey through the soul of money, I want to take a moment to reflect on why this book matters so profoundly, especially for someone standing at the threshold of adult life. You're stepping into a world that will shout the relentless message of scarcity at you, from every screen, every advertisement, every corner of the culture. It will tell you constantly that your worth is measured entirely by what you acquire, that you must compete ruthlessly to survive, and that you are fundamentally not enough exactly as you are. Lynne Twist's work is so much more than just another book on a shelf. It's an act of profound rebellion against all that noise. It's a powerful, loving reminder of a truth that resides deep within all of us, a truth we knew instinctively as children but may have gradually forgotten, that the greatest wealth doesn't live in our bank accounts. It lives in our connections, in our creativity, and in our capacity to contribute something meaningful. What strikes me most powerfully about the soul of money is its radical gentleness. It doesn't scold you for wanting things or for participating in a consumer culture. Instead, it invites you to look deeper, to ask a more beautiful, soulful question. What is my soul's true currency? Is it fear, or is it love? Is it endless accumulation, or is it thoughtful allocation? Is it cutthroat competition, or is it generous collaboration? The book gives us a completely new language, a transformative lens through which to see our lives. The concepts of scarcity, sufficiency, money as water, and what you appreciate appreciates aren't just clever catchphrases. They're practical tools for genuine liberation. They give us the power to consciously choose the context of our entire lives. For a young person today, this is a genuine superpower. In a world of constant comparison and carefully curated online lives, the pressure to feel less than is absolutely immense. This book offers the ultimate antidote to that poison. It teaches clearly that your value is inherent and completely unshakable. It doesn't come from what you have or don't have. It comes from who you are and the unique gifts you bring to the world. It reframes the entire goal of life, from a frantic, exhausting chase for more, to a joyful process of making a genuine difference with what you have, right now, today. So how can you begin to put these powerful ideas into practice right away? It doesn't require some grand gesture or dramatic life change. It starts with small, conscious shifts in how you think and act. First, practice knowing the flow. For just 1 week, pay close attention to how money actually moves through your life. Don't judge it or feel guilty. Just observe with curiosity. Where does it come from? Where does it go? Every single transaction tells a story. What story is your money telling about what you truly value? This simple act of awareness is the essential first step toward consciously directing that flow with intention. Second, start an appreciation practice. Every morning, before you even reach for your phone, take just 30 seconds to name 3 specific things you are genuinely grateful for that have absolutely nothing to do with money. Your health, a friend who makes you laugh until your sides hurt, your ability to learn new things. This simple act trains your brain to naturally see the abundance that's already present in your life. Remember, what you appreciate, appreciates. The more you focus on the richness that already exists in your life, the richer your life will genuinely become. And third, shift one conversation. The next time you find yourself or your friends stuck in a conversation about what you don't have, not enough time, not enough money, not enough opportunities, gently try to pivot. Ask openly, what do we actually have right now? What's one small thing we could do today? Shifting the conversation from lack to possibility is exactly how we begin to change the world, starting with the world we inhabit between our own ears. That was a summary of The Soul of Money by Lynne Twist. We've touched on the major themes today, but I'll be completely honest with you. A summary is like looking at a photograph of a magnificent feast. You can clearly see what's on the table, but you can't taste the food, smell the aromas, or feel truly nourished. The real magic of this book happens when you read it yourself, at your own pace. It's in the quiet moments when one of Lynne's stories, about Gertrude, or the Magnificent Seven, or her own mother, connects deeply with something inside you. This summary is simply meant to help you decide if this book deserves your time and attention. If anything we've talked about today has sparked even a small light in you, I genuinely encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning new information. It's an experience that can fundamentally change how you see yourself, your money, and your place in the world. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable and meaningful, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to make sure you don't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.